All right. Hello and welcome to the first episode of GW Basketball Insiders. I'm Liam O'Murchu alongside David Korn. We are the GW Basketball Insiders. It's our first episode, and we're very excited to be bringing this to you.
Yeah, we're super excited for this. Shout out Matt Moderno and the Department of Hoops for putting this together. Just sort of some background on the show. If you're a GW fan, you've probably seen me and Liam around the Smith Center, seen us online. We love GW basketball. We're both GW graduates. We were around the program where a lot of students have been trying to stay involved post-grad. And, we're really just excited about this season and excited to bring you some more GW content through this medium now. Expect to hear from us at least, once every week, every 2 weeks or so. But, if there's ever a big story, ever a big moment, you can expect a GW Basketball Insiders podcast to hit your feeds for our breakdown on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those uninitiated, unfamiliar, which I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this are already familiar with this, we're about, I guess at this point, approaching 3 weeks into the season. The GW men's team is 3-0. And the women's team is 2-1, although one of their games was against I don't even think it was a D3 school.
I think that was that game against Virginia Lynchburg, right?
Yes.
That was, I think, maybe the biggest waste of time I'd ever seen. Like, no offense to Virginia Lynchburg, but again, this is a great topic to start the show off with. But I just think at a certain point, these non-D1 scrimmages really don't have a lot of value.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can talk about there's been lots of questions and lots of discussions about this whole scheduling philosophies and how some of it is out of necessity and some of it isn't. But I have had some issues with the team specific. I understand that you can't schedule entirely D1 teams and you want to have some games that you basically can guarantee a win. But I have had some issues with the choices that especially the women's team has made in terms of scheduling teams. There's a way to schedule teams that you think are going to be good in D1 or in D2 or D3, and that's not what they've done the last few years. But
yeah, all right. But Liam, let's start off with the men's team, which I think has had a much more compelling start to the season. They're 3-0. They've shown some really impressive flashes. I just want to hear your quick take after the first 3 games. I know we've each been there for 2 of the games. I was there for the first game and the third game. You were there for the second and the third game. So, just rapid fire reactions, a few quick thoughts off the bat.
They've been good. They've had a few newcomers. They've, the teams, I think actually some of the teams they've played were probably, I've come out of almost every game impressed with the teams they've played. That's Mercyhurst, Hampton, and NC-A&T, maybe less so with Hampton, but that I believe was GW's biggest win of the 3. But it's been good. I've been really impressed with Rafael Castro, who I know we're going to get to in a little bit here.
I think that's been the story of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We can just hop into that if you want. I think he's really been great.
I agree. So I'm glad you brought that up again. I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but Rafael Castro has really been, I think, a revelation. I think there wasn't even, people didn't know if he was even going to start heading into the season because GW picked up 2, I think, pretty high-quality transfers at the center position with him and Sean Hansen. But he's played a majority of the minutes, and boy, has he been impressive on both ends of the floor. And I couldn't tell you the last time that GW has had a center who can do the things he can do on both ends of the floor.
It certainly hasn't been in either of our times at GW, which admittedly is relatively decent, but still, there's all of these, I think this is going to continue as the season goes on, but there's all of these kind of stats that or these, I don't want to say records, but things that he's doing that haven't been done in years. He's had a few, he's been good stats wise, and he's also been really, he's had a few really fun highlights too. Like he had the block almost immediately.
The block and the poster.
Yep. And
but let's be real. If you've seen the video that GW's put out about the dunk, the highlight of that is not the dunk itself. It is our pal Abe Rothstein, who in his one game in the student section he does a year, somehow managed to make himself the star of the game with that celebration. So, but Castro's been incredible.
Yeah, he really has, and you can sort of see it in some of the statistics for GW as a team. And obviously, we're 3 games into the season, so a lot of these things are, even if you look at this tomorrow morning, the rankings will be different and stuff like that, just because it's such a small sample size for so many of these teams. But like the team as a whole has been really good offensively down low in the paint, 33rd best offensive 2-point percentage, and they've been similarly very good in defensive 2-point percentage. So yeah, I've been really, really impressed with Rafael Castro. I mean, maybe we'll wait till later in the season about this, but I mean, you asked Caputo a question in the last press conference, sort of, and I think that led him to talk about the team more widely in like the value in having Castro for more than 1 year and the value of having a lot of these players.
Well,
and being able to,
hypothetically, we always need to preface this in the age of immediate transfers. Castro's a junior right now. He does not have a COVID year. He has 1 more year of college basketball. And we spoke about this off air, Liam, but the sort of philosophy behind it, again, I know it's only 3 seasons in, but all sources and all indications are that everything anyone's seen is that this guy's a star. And that's just the way college basketball works right now, where if you are, a mid-major program and a guy who has eligibility going forward is exceeding expectations, your first thought immediately goes towards the transfer portal, which is sort of a depressing way to exist and follow a team. But I have this is a guy who spent 2 years at Providence before here, a high major program, and one of the up-and-coming program, not up-and-coming, I guess that's the wrong way to put it, but a team that I think is on the rise with Kim English. And he really didn't get much run. I think he started 1 game his entire time there, was a 8th man, 9th man there. And now at GW, in just 3 games that he started, he's showing that, I think he's the second best center in the A10 after Robbie Avila right now. And so would he want to chase greener try and go back to a high major where he was for the first 2 years of his career and really was buried on the bench? Or would he like to stay at GW, keep improving, keep getting more playing time, keep, building off what he had here? Because if his desire is to play basketball professionally, then, nothing would kill those hopes more than getting stuck on the bench at a high major. So I think that'd be a really big risk if he decided to do that. And so right now, I personally am not super worried about Castro bolting after the season. I think, again, if he keeps playing the way he is, unless it's like something truly unprecedented where he becomes like a player of the year candidate, then I could see that. But the way he is right now, I feel very confident that GW would be able to retain him.
Yeah. So the other caveat that we do need to make here is when GW played against Mercyhurst, Mercyhurst does not have a player over 6'8". Hampton does not have a player who played, significant minutes. They have a 6'10" freshman, but other than that, 6'7" is their tallest player. North Carolina A&T probably was the biggest challenge, and even still, they had the main guy who was giving him trouble was the 6'9" sophomore Nicolas Chichikudis. So he hasn't played really against like a competent big man yet. And if you look at the A10, there aren't a lot of guys this year in the conference that I think would give him trouble. Yeah, I just wanted to say you need to be ready for some opposing center not named Robbie Avila to score, have like 25 and 10 against him, and then anyone watching this will come back to this moment.
Yeah, Kansas State be a challenge.
I don't entirely disagree with you. So you wanted to do a little exercise here. You say you think he's second best after Robbie Avila. I think that's fair. I have a hard time disagreeing.
From what we've seen, I really do. Yeah. Again, I think the center position, I think the A10's a guards league. I think the center position is pretty weak. I think his biggest competition is Zed Key at Dayton, who personally hasn't really impressed me that much this year, the Ohio State transfer. But like looking down the rest of the centers, Jalen Deloach and Miles Rubin at Loyola are both pretty good, but I think they split time too much, and Rubin has not made the jump that I thought he would, I guess, at this point in the season. Who else?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say Noel. I would at this point I would say Castro is better than Noel Brown, as much as I love Noel Brown.
Yeah, Noel Brown. Shout out Noel Brown. He's great. I think he's probably in the next tier of A10 centers, but I think Castro is much better already. What about
St. Joe's? What about Justice Agabor? I probably said that wrong.
Well, so we're talking about St. Joe's. I think he's much better than Agabor, but I think you could get into something if they talk about playing Fleming at the 5, because Fleming's obviously very good, but I don't think he's their center. So again, the A10 I don't believe is a center's league, and Castro has the ability. Again, these are a lot of smaller guys. These are a lot of guys who aren't necessarily elite at their position. He has the chance to really dominate down low. And going into the season, I thought this is one of the things, one of the ways I thought GW could have success. And this is going to be a great transition to our next point, is that especially after Garrett Johnson's season-ending knee injury over the summer, I think GW is the best big man rotation in the conference by a significant margin right now. And I think if they can sort of just kill teams inside and bang down low with Castro and Buchanan and then Hansen as sort of a different look when he comes off the bench, those three guys are really, you don't see A10 teams a lot built sort of inside out this way and play that way. So I think it'll be really fun to watch, and I think GW has a really cool opportunity to sort of dominate with their big men, which could be really fun to watch.
Yeah. So the thing that, once there is a coach who, I'm sure coaches that are playing these last, I'm sure the NCAA and Hampton sort of realize, and I'm sure that NJIT, who GW plays next Monday.
Another showcase against one of the nation's best.
Yeah, that whole scheduling discussion is a whole different thing. But what I'm saying is, I think there are teams that have good enough personnel and good enough coaching staff, good enough plan that are going to try to pack it in against GW and make it really difficult for them to do anything down low and force them to shoot threes, which is something they've struggled with this year.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing I wanted to bring up next.
Yeah, but if they know that's going to happen, then hopefully the 3-point shooting will be kind of improved, because it's been bad this year.
But it's been a small sample size. It's been a small sample size, and but again, the thing that worries me is they have had a good amount of open threes that they've missed. So let's just run through some of the numbers for the 3-point shooting right now. On the season so far, through GW's first 3 games, they're 18 for 75 at a 24% clip as a team. Of the team's sort of biggest 3-point shooters, Jacoy Hutchinson is 3 for 11, 27.3%. Trey Moss is 2 for 12, 16.7%. Trey Autry is 3 for 10, 30%. Gerald Drumgoole has the most volume, but he's just 5 for 22 at 22.7%. And then what I think is the most concerning part of this whole statistic is Darren Buchanan is 0 for 7. And frankly, none of them have looked like good shots.
He's taken a few open, semi-open or open from the corner, and they just haven't fallen.
Yes, so they have been shots he should take, but they have not looked close to going in.
It's been a concern. The main thing that, GW head coach Chris Caputo has said is, well, it would be different if we had Garrett Johnson, which is true. And I do think that there's a certain amount of adjustments that need to be made when you don't have him, especially when you don't have him. It's not like he tore his ACL at the end of last year. He tore his ACL in the middle of the summer, so you had already added the players to play around him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a very tough adjustment. And I do think Gerald Drumgoole's, I think the roles of a lot of people will be different, in this department, but especially Gerald Drumgoole, I think will be a lot.
Last year, Drumgoole shot 37.3% from 3 on a really high volume of 6.2 attempts per game for Delaware. And the year before, he led the America East with 34.3% from 3. So he's a capable volume shooter. Yeah. They just aren't going in. So I'm not too worried about Drumgoole, because
no, I definitely think he can shoot himself.
yeah, you're a new team, you're a new role, those will fall. I'm not worried about Drumgoole. Obviously if this keeps going, then that might be a conversation that we need to have. But as of now, I'm not worried about Drumgoole. I think if Trey Autry can sort of make them at a bit of a higher clip and higher volume, I think that could be a big asset off the bench. Something really interesting I saw. I didn't get much clarity on this in the press conference, but Autry was in the closing lineup for GW against North Carolina A&T, which were GW's first real like crunch time minutes that they've played this season. And so it was the starting Moss's started games, but Autry closed. And so I think that's something really interesting and sort of a trend to watch going forward. And I think if Autry shows that he is sort of a more trustworthy and capable three-point shooter, he can sort of force himself into more minutes, and especially those crunch time minutes.
Yeah. The other while we're talking about 3-pointers, the other thing is I want to see Sean Hansen shooting more 3-pointers.
Yep.
He's only taken one this entire year. He made it. I think it was in the North Carolina A&T game. Keegan Harvey has taken a 3-point.
Weird. I don't know how I feel about Hansen, Liam. What's your take?
I think he sort of needs to, not only does he need to get into a rhythm, it's sort of similar to what you're saying with Drumgoole about it. He's a newcomer and he kind of is getting used to a bit of a new system. I also think that a lot of the guards need to, and this is what Caputo has said, need to get used to playing with him because he is a bit of a different big man than a lot of them have played with before. He's a 3-point threat. He's like how it was described as he is a pick and pop rather than a pick and roll, which is very different than Rafael Castro. Rafael Castro is the opposite.
But I think that's a big asset having two centers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
They're able to get it to work.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So I guess he maybe just needs some more time to settle in. Maybe this game against NJIT will be a good opportunity for that. But yeah, I know you mentioned something about him defensively, and I kind of agree with that. There have been a few instances where he has looked uncomfortable. Like he hasn't looked good.
I'm worried that he's a bit of a tweener between the 4 and the 5, where it's like offensively he's sort of a 4, but defensively he's more like a 5, but he's still not big enough to really defend, starting caliber centers. And so I'm worried that the minutes he'll have without Castro on the floor could really be problematic defensively.
Yeah.
Because I think when they play together, I think it's better. But I don't want it to be a situation. I know last year Darren Buchanan played a lot of 5 out of necessity because there was no depth on that GW team at that position. But I would be really, with the amount of minutes, contact that he'll have at the rim, all of that, I think everything needs to be done that can be done to limit Buchanan's sort of, I guess, to keep him as fresh as possible on the defensive end. And I'm worried that he's going to have to overcompensate too much in those minutes with Hansen there. Basically, yes, I'm worried about Hansen defensively. I've seen him get beat too many times down low in the limited minutes he's played so far. And I think that could be something to monitor going forward and could be a way for, and just, again, something concerning we've seen so far, but plenty of time to rectify it.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you brought up the fouling. The fouling is actually something GW, or not fouling, has been something GW's been good at. 26th in the country in, free throws over field goal attempts, which is just one of those Ken Pom things. But it gives you an idea that, like, they're really not sending these 3 teams they've played so far. They're not sending them to the line. Some of that may have to do with, obviously it's a good thing. And it's an issue often with many different, types of teams. So maybe some of that has to do with playing against smaller teams, but it's still a good thing. Obviously that they're like, there hasn't really been a single GW player that's been in foul trouble. Like it was like Jacoy Hutchinson had 3 fouls for most of the second half in the game against NCAA.
Castro had 3 for a lot of that second half against North Carolina A&T, but he was again able to, he played I don't think there was any real concern from the coaching staff with that. Like, I don't think they changed their substitutions based on his fouling, and then he was able to play. Like, I didn't notice a dip in aggressiveness, which I think is key to be able to play the same type of way without fouling when you are, again, he wasn't in foul trouble, but was approaching foul trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something we have to mention, almost completely unrelated, is this Miracle on 22nd Street thing. I think there's some people listening who are upset about this. Personally, I won't be there, so it's not as big of a deal to me, but the execution was very poor. We were all under the impression it was going to be before the game against Army, and I think it was December 10th, which is the same weekend of the Army-Navy game at the Commander Stadium. Also, by the way, Commanders are going to lose tonight, but that's not the point. But then they sort of last minute moved it to this next game, which is on the 18th. So that's not great.
Yeah, I mean,
but ultimately, like,
it's
how much does it really matter?
I think it's a thing like this is sort of tough when you don't have any marquee non-conference opponents coming.
Yeah, there's no South Carolina.
Yeah, like 2 years ago when South Carolina came, that was really fun. You know, the crowd got super into it. We did our WRGW college game day style show, which was so much fun. The band was there. You know, it was a bit colder, so I think that always can play into like the excitement and getting people sort of hyped up. And then GW blew the tires off South Carolina, which was I still think probably one of, if not the best GW basketball moments that I've had in my 6 years following the program. And so it is a bit of a downgrade going to a November game against mid-November game against NJIT. But,
yeah, NJIT, which is like legit.
On the other end of that spectrum, though, that's a game that you maybe would not have gotten a lot of students to go to, and this will get them in the building.
That's a good point.
And so that's one way to look at it. But
yeah. Anyway,
I'd be interested to hear how many students on campus. If you're a student and you're listening to this, let me know if you even knew this was happening, because we don't know if this has been marketed appropriately. Yeah.
It's all about the flyers. All about the flyers. Got to put up the flyers everywhere. Let's see. What do we?
I mean, the season's young. The season's young. There's still a lot to look forward to. There's still a lot we don't know. Other storylines could emerge very quickly. Injuries could happen. Other players could, I wouldn't be shocked if like Trey Moss had a few like 25, 30-point games. He's like really an electric volume type scorer who could really get it going. Like if he gets hot from three.
Yeah. You know how many assists he has this year?
I do know he has 0 assists.
0 assists this year.
Which again, I don't think is a huge issue, because I think GW has a guy like Jacoy Hutchinson, who's like such a true point guard, such a true facilitator, where I think it's okay. And GW's been doing a lot of playmaking out of the post. Castro's been a more than willing and capable passer. Hansen is known for his passing. Buchanan's always a good passer. So yeah, I think it's okay if like Trey Moss and Gerald Drumgoole sort of are more just like gunners who'll shoot it when they're open. Like that's okay with me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Anything else we want to talk about in terms of the men? Do we want to briefly touch on the women? Should we talk about these three players injured for the men right now? Diane Nessa.
Yeah, we can give a quick update on that. I don't think any of them are long term. Zemakubaluche Ume hasn't played yet. Or did he play?
He played in the first game. He played briefly in the first game. He hurt his wrist between the first and second game.
Again, I don't really see a path to him getting a lot of minutes this season.
Yeah.
I think the only way that happens is if these defensive issues with Hansen really get magnified. I could see Capito making sort of a maybe not total swap, but maybe giving him 5 or 6 minutes a game or something, maybe 1 or 2 rotations in to see what he can do. So I'm not too worried about Waluche Ume. Diane Nessa hasn't played yet. He has a lower body injury, right? And then I
don't know is it an ankle injury?
I think lower body is the designation.
Lower body. Oh, great.
And then
we're covering a hockey team now. I'm glad.
He's
I'm just kidding.
He's really when I went to a practice in October, Nessa was sort of a wild card for most people. Came from Europe. There wasn't a lot of tape, but he's a guy who is more of a power forward, I think, than a wing, which was not necessarily what I was expecting. And so again, I think GW views him more as like Buchanan's backup. So if he gets in, there'd be fewer minutes where it would be sort of Castro and Hansen sharing the floor. And it would then be like they would just more view him as one on, one off with him and Buchanan.
Yeah.
So
do you think the scenario you were talking about, if Hansen's defense is bad, do you think Dion could fill that role? I mean, obviously it's not a one-to-one swap necessarily.
When the practice I went to, Nessa did play some 5. I think that was because Castro didn't play in that practice. Okay. So I think, again, it was just sort of out of necessity. But, I mean, in this age, yeah, he definitely could play some small ball 5.
Right.
I don't think it really matters positionally that much. I think he's you just kind of get your 5 guys out there and hope it kind of works out. I don't think. Yes, I could see that happening, but I think they'd probably also give Luchi Ume a chance at that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then Ty Bevins, who played in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Bevins. I was sad that he. I think his injury came at a bad time. He was getting some playing time, which I wasn't expecting as a freshman. I was not expecting him to be in the rotation, and he's been a pleasant surprise. He's a active, fundamentally sound defender. He has a 3-point shot. That's how you get minutes as a freshman. Yep.
Caputo said that he was day-to-day. Mm-hmm. So whatever that means, that's a Caroline McCombs special right there, calling players who are out for the season day-to-day, which I respect because in a way we are all day-to-day. So
that's like what Josh Schertz, when he gave his designation for Robbie Avila, he was like, couple weeks, and he's like, what does that mean? And he's like, yeah, we'll see. Could be 2, could be 5. It's like, well, that's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, I do think there are a lot of situations in which the coaches do not know, and like they can't give a full honest answer. But there are some instances where,
and I think that's always the correct move. I think there's no reason to.
Yeah.
I think you should always be as vague as possible. And I do think there is also sort of a game. This is going a little off topic, but I do think there could be some gamesmanship with that too. Like when the Dodgers knew that Shohei Ohtani could not play at all, and when he hurt his shoulder in the World Series, but we're just like, we've never seen anything like it. He's there and playing, and they just used him as a decoy at the top of the order to make the Yankees try and pitch around him when he really could not play whatsoever. And so it's stuff like that where, you go as far as you can go without being fined for like fudging an injury report.
Yeah, not if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. Then you go too far, and then you get fined. So, should we briefly talk about the women's team at the end here? Unless is there anything more you want to talk about with the men?
No, I think we pretty much have covered it. We can switch over. I think the big story is Gabby Reynolds and
Agreed.
How truly impressive she is as a freshman. Former Michigan Player of the Year. She's really taken over that point guard role, and this is the most excited I've been about a player, I think, on either side coming in, men's or women's GW in my time watching the team. And
more excited than more excited than I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
More excited. I mean,
it was probably because I was at the game when she like scored like 28 points at Howard, but I was like, oh my goodness. And then
because again, Nia Robertson was just a volume scorer. There wasn't much else there.
She's continuing to do it at SMU. She's doing the exact same thing.
And Nia Reynolds, capable defender, teammates love her. From the press conference I attended, really good passer, just looks so smooth on the floor. And all as a freshman, I think she's the clear pick for, Rookie of the Year in the A10. And if she stays, I think she is a program-altering type player.
Yeah. The Richmond women's team doesn't have another like all like the best player in the Philadelphia Catholic League coming into play for them, because it's like I feel like legitimately the last like 2 or 3 years they've had, and this is getting a little specific towards my Philadelphia basketball knowledge, but like they had like the best players in the Philadelphia Catholic League come in and just kill it. Like Maggie Dugan, and there's one or two others that I'm forgetting. So I think she's got it locked up unless some white girl from the main line shows up and starts being really good on a really good team. But I mean,
but I feel like we just don't know as much about this team though, because there was the one game, the Howard game had no stream, so you couldn't watch that. And then the other one was against Virginia Lynchburg, who didn't have a team last year. So
yeah,
it's like what we saw in the first game against Delaware was good.
Yeah, and they looked good, and they looked good offensively. But it's just hard to know. It's really hard.
I think it's just really difficult to really say anything other than Gabby Reynolds looks great.
Yep. And that loss to Howard was not a good loss. Howard then lost by like.
Tell us about that, Liam.
I mean, Howard got, as you described it earlier, got their tires blown out, or I forget what the term you used. They lost by a lot to VCU at home. And then they played Mount St. Mary's yesterday, and they won, but they won 39-35. So I don't really.
That's like the GW Slew Box score from 2006.
Yes. Still the least points allowed in. Is it in the shot clock era, or is it in the?
Is there a full recording of that game somewhere?
Oh goodness.
Here, if anyone can find that, Liam and I will do a live watch along one day.
That we should do
once the season's over, we'll do a live watch along with that, and whoever makes it through, we'll figure out a prize for you.
We'll get like a cash prize. But yeah, I think as time goes on, that Howard loss is not going to be great. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe they'll turn it around, and it's not like I've been, scrutinizing every single minute or like every single moment of the Howard.
You're not knee deep into MEAC women's, how that's going to shake out.
No, well, when there's no streams for the games, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was bummed. I was working that night because I can walk to Burr Arena, and so
really? Yeah.
I was sort of excited to go, but I was working, so I couldn't go.
That's a nice little arena they got there.
I know. I'm excited to catch some games there this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we can. You want to leave it there with the women's team for now?
I think we can wrap. Again, just 3 games in the season so far. A lot of promising stuff on the men's side. I think some more questions than answers on the women's side, but I'm really excited for this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think my biggest takeaway so far is that I'm going to say this again: Rafael Castro is a potential star, and really could, has his play these first 3 games has raised GW's ceiling to, a point where they should not be considered as just sort of it is a given. It should not be a given that they will be in the pillow fight. With the way Castro is playing, they're going to be competitive in the Atlantic 10.
Yep. Got to shoot better from 3 though. Next game for the men is home versus NJIT, which is like bottom 10 team in the country, probably the worst D1 team that GW will play this year. But that's next Monday at 7 p.m. And then
I don't know. They're going to play Richmond, so.
Got him. And then the women's next game is at Ohio, Saturday at noon. Both of those games are on ESPN Plus.
That's an awful road game. I think
it's a home and home. I think they played Ohio I don't know. It's a bit of a bizarre home and home.
Yeah, that doesn't make it better. That's still an awful road game.
Yeah. McCombs is she went to Youngstown State, so maybe there's some connection there. I don't know. We'll have to you're not making it out to Athens for the game?
No, don't think I am. I don't think I can make that trip work.
Not in the budget.
I think the next road game I'll be at is when the men are at American. I think I'm going to try and get there.
Yep, that'll be good.
I think Obama will show up to that one.
Hopefully. I mean, that's a whole different thing. We could do a whole different discussion about that. He's been to a GW game before. There's a photo in the press.
I know. Barack Obama, well, I think he went there because of the Harvard connection.
That's probably
really went. But it just cracks me up. Obama at an AU Harvard game. Like, what a One of us. True sicko. I love it.
Literally, true sicko. And yeah. Was it you that said to me that, like, I think he showed up because he knew that there wouldn't be enough people there for it to be secure?
Yeah, I think Secret Service let him do that because I think there were so few people at that game that they were able to pretty easily and quickly lock it down.
Yeah. I bet all the poli-sci nerds in America were in a state when they were like, what do you mean Obama's on our campus right now? Where is he? Oh, he's at the basketball game? All right. I'll catch him on the way.
Yeah. No, I don't even want to go into that because it pisses me off that people in DC don't care about their college basketball. But anyway, that's a good point to end. Liam, this was a lot of fun. If you stayed till the end, we appreciate it, and we'll have these out a lot more throughout the season. So if you enjoyed, make sure to follow the Department of Hoops. Follow us on Twitter at David_Korn4 and
Liam_0___.
We'll be pushing these out as much as we can. We'll have some great guests. This is your place to be for GW basketball content. And yeah, like we said at the beginning, we're the GW basketball insiders and we know what's going on. And I'll try and be at as many games as I can, talking to as many people as I can to get you guys the most up-to-date and best information possible for these shows and for some of the other articles I put out on A10 Talk.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for spending the time with us, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is a lot of fun.